Good morning, everybody, again. It's Ilko Kruisinga from the matchmaking team of the European Smart City Marketplace. And the next session is really a deep dive into a city example from the great city of Rotterdam, being delivered by Ronald van der Heijden, who is the Program Manager Digital City for Rotterdam. And we have until 12 for this particular session, so we can go into quite some detail. Don't forget that we still have the availability to ask questions via the Slido platform. The link is shown below on the page that you're watching this live stream from. And also, again, we have our meeting area where there's somebody from my team sitting there to help you with any questions you might have, be it find information on earlier presentations, and also helping you if you have any issues with setting up one-to-one meetings with fellow participants. And if you're interested in submitting a project proposal to our investor network. Now, without further ado, I want to hand over to Roland, who's going to speak about the application of IoT technology in Rotterdam. So over to you, Roland.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. My name is, as already said, Roland van der Heijden. I am the program manager for the Digital City program of the City of Rotterdam. And I would like to take you along what we are doing within that program and what we're aiming at. Yes. I always start the story of what it's all about with us people at what we call the social reality. And social reality stands for everything that we as human beings are doing. We interact with each other, we communicate, we behave in certain ways, and everything we do as human beings, all our behavior is really set within the social reality. But we always are in physical surroundings, and we're physical beings. So the dimension between the social and the physical reality is constantly going up and down. So we're constantly shaping the physical reality around us, and at the same time, the physical reality is constantly influence on our behavior and the way we feel. Just remember that we talk differently when we're in the church than we're at the marketplace. So the physical surroundings doing something with us. And the dimension between social and physical reality within the context of the city, you could call that the traditional city. This is how we shaped our cities for centuries, this dimension, this dynamics. But now recently, a completely new reality has arisen, and that's what we call the digital reality. And the digital reality is much more than something new that we need to incorporate in our traditional image of the city. It's a real reality on its own and creates new dimensions. And where you see that the most is in what we see on the digital social dimension, with coming of internet and smartphones and all kinds of companies, and especially what we call the platform economy. Companies like Uber and Airbnb, they really have an enormous impact. And that impact goes further than just on the digital social dimension. It has its impact on the social physical dimension. So it really goes deep into how our cities are shaped. Just remember, in Silicon Valley, there are some kids creating a program. They're setting that on the internet. And after that, we have in our city, we find the physical consequences of that, like Airbnb or Uber. So the impact is really enormous, and we really should see that. On the digital physical dimension, we see that it's not that much developed yet. There are a lot of things going on. Already alone in Rotterdam, we made an inventory, and we came up with a list with more than 350 smart city projects and initiatives that we are undertaking. But at the same time, also gives us the feeling that even if we do 1,000 smart city projects, it doesn't make us a smart city. So that is something else. And what is the difference between that? And we really believe that it's has everything to do with what we call the connection. So the digital city program is at first really focused on making the connection on the digital physical reality, on that dimension. And at this moment, there's not that much. We all know Google Earth 3D, I think. That's more or less the best there is at this moment. And it's also graphically looking very nice. But in essence, it's a dumb model. I will come back to that later, what I mean by that. So it's really important to understand that the digital reality shifts the creation of our city and rises to new dimensions. And from that physical digital dimension, from the digital city program, later on we also try to influence the dimensions in the direction of social reality. And in the end, you could say that the better we are able to connect those three realities and let them work together and stimulate each other, the better we succeed in that, the more you could say that we are being a resilient and smart city. So that's the context. And as I said, with the digital city program, we're focusing on at first at the digital physical dimension. Now here you see a picture of what we call the urban digital ecosystem of Rotterdam, and from the point of the municipality. And in that we see that at first we as a municipality really want to create what we call a digital foundation, dislocking the data for the use internally in our own municipality platform. But on top of that, we really want to create an open urban platform for the city. So in that platform, it's not our own platform, it's a platform for the city. And it also raises new questions. I come back to that later. And in the end, that open urban platform is what we see as an important part in what we call the enabling digital infrastructure for the ecosystem of Rotterdam. Now, and that's on the top, you see the other digital ecosystems. Of course, as Rotterdam, we're not alone in this. We also we have our own ecosystem, but at the same time, we are surrounded by all kinds of other ecosystems. And in the end, you really want to connect to that surroundings too. So in the end, it's also important to see that interoperability is important on all levels. And with the program, as already mentioned, we are focusing in this program on the open urban digital, on the open urban platform with the 3D digital twin. So the program has two main goals. One is really understand what that means, what this new city, as we call it, means, and what kind of questions are coming from that. And we really try to work together with all kinds of knowledge institutes in the Netherlands, but also international, and work together on a structural building of what we call a community of knowledge, in which we research all kinds of important questions. And the second main goal is more concrete, that is building an operational urban platform that will be finished in 2022 and then can go operational to fulfill its duty. And that's what we call the community of practice. Those two main goals we try to receive with three development tracks. The first track is aimed at developing that urban platform with 3D digital twin. The second track is aiming at developing new kinds of applications and services on top of that platform. So we make a separation between the platform and the applications that you can build on top of that. And the third track is what we call the conditional supporting tracks. It contains the knowledge tracks for the community of knowledge, but also the communications and financial tracks and juridical stuff. So at first, when we look at the platform that we want to build in our city, in essence, it contains three layers. We see all kinds of data sources within the ecosystem. We see all kinds of users. At the same time, we also see that in a lot of cases, users are also data sources. So that's both ways. And we see all kinds of possible applications. And the open platform has the purpose to make a smart connection between those two, between those data sources available and between the users and applications that want to use those data in a more smart way. You could compare it with what we call Lego blocks. When you see every Lego block as a piece of data, and then you could say, okay, we have all kinds of data sources in our city. On the left, you see the companies having all kinds of data, the knowledge institutes have all kinds of data, and also the governments have all kinds of data. And in the middle, we see what we call the Lego ground plate as a basis where all those Lego pieces can be put on top of. Button, to build what we call all kinds of different information buildings. So when you have all kinds of data, you have a connection plate in the middle, then you can build all kinds of different information buildings on top of that plate. And in essence, of course, it's to make this possible, one thing is key in this, and this is how you create what we call the PPIs, the pivotal points of interoperability. That are the connection points between every piece of software that uses data from another source and then builds on top of that further. Now, and when you make the comparison with Lego, the interesting thing of that is that you could say that there are all kinds of pieces of Lego and all kinds of colors, all kinds of shapes, but one thing is fixed, and these are the dot structure on top of it. And that makes sure that every block fits in another block. And that is how we see the use of the pivotal points of interoperability, the PPIs. Now, the PPIs, we distracted them from our participation in the European project Espresso from a couple of years ago. What was really aimed at the development of what we call the minimal interoperability mechanisms. And the minimal interoperability mechanisms are the best explained by the fact that you say, okay, what are the minimal functionalities that you need to start developing your platform, and start with that. So we're coming from an ICT history in which we created all kind of what we call grand design applications with all kind of possible solutions in it, very complex systems, taking a completely holistic approach of some issue, and build a very enormous framework for that. But in practice, those frameworks are too complex, give too much discussion, and in the end, when all discussions are done, then you're 3 years behind and you can start all over again. So the approach of the grand design is not working. And Espresso told us, get rid of that grand design thinking and go ahead with what we call the MIM thinking, so the minimal approach thinking. And create much more what we call a minimal viable product and start from there. So really be flexible in your developments. And based on the experiments that we've done, we came up with the list of minimal interoperability as you see on the left on the screen. These are the minimal interoperability mechanisms as we discovered them up so far. Then look at what we call the digital twin of the city. What is a digital twin? The digital twin starts with a smart 3D model of the city. And that brings us also back to the fact that I said that Google Earth has a dumb model, and we as a municipality have what we call a smart model. And the difference is this, what you see now. And the difference is that in our 3D model, everything is what we call is an object. So every building, every tree, every waste bin, every light pole, but also all the cables and pipes in the underground, everything is is an object. And because it's an object, you can attach data to it, and you can also calculate with it because those objects have a geometry. So you can use that to calculate the roof surface for the use of solar panels or whatever. And by attaching data to it, you can also ask smart questions to the model. So it's really important for us to have a smart model of the city as a basis. And when you attach real-time data to that smart model, as you see here, the waste bins in Rotterdam, the waste bins in Rotterdam all have a sensor, and that's measuring how full the waste bin is. And when you combine that real-time data with the 3D model of the city, So not only describing the physical state of the city with a 3D model, but also the functional state of the city. How is everything working? Is that waste bin full? Is that lead post burning? How many cars are driving through the street, etc., etc. When you have those combination, then you get what we call 3D digital twin. So a 3D digital twin is nothing more than a description of current reality in terms of data. So you use data to describe how your physical city is functioning at this moment. And that is a basis for all kinds of smart solutions. And it's also very interesting that if you not only create a digital twin, but also store the digital twin every time, then you get also very nice historical patterns of the use of that city. So you're not only able to see if that parking lot is occupied at this moment, but you can also see how often that parking lot was occupied last week between Monday and Friday, between 6 hours in the morning and 8 in the evening. And that's, of course, very interesting policy information. So how does the roadmap of our development look like? Here you see the whole scheme. In the bottom, you also see the European projects that we are participating in. And on the left, you see the development phase that you want to go through. And so it started all with ideas. Then we had the preparation phase in which we transform those ideas into a program, and then we started with doing the first two proof of concepts to test what we want is possible in this platform development. And we used the project Organized to develop the first two proof of concepts. But we also found out that we still want to do a third proof of concept, and that wasn't possible within the European project Ruggedized anymore. So we needed to create a new thing to develop further, and that was that we needed to go to a procurement. But the special thing here is that we still had that development phase, and if you in a procurement want to combine development and going operational, because we don't want to go to do a new procurement after the third proof concept. So we want to do one procurement once and then do both phases in the same procurement. But that's only possible with some new forms of procurement called the innovative partnership, or the what's the English word? The competitive dialogue. But both new forms of procurement demand that you find a way to let the market confirm that what you want really is innovative. And for that confirmation, the market consultation is a really useful instrument. So we recently have done a market consultation. We've now finished it. And the market indeed confirmed that what we are doing as a whole is innovative. So we have created the possibility to go into an innovative procurement procedure. And that's what we are working on right now. Now, after the procurement that will take place the next few months, we will go into the third and final proof of concept for our last development phase. And after that, we have a final go, no-go moment. And then when we say yes, then we will go operational to have in 2022 an operational platform with a 3D digital twin on top of that. And after that, the story doesn't end, but that's out of scope of the program as it is right now. But after that, we want to develop further into the direction of what we call a digital urban community. And as I mentioned in that triangle in the beginning, the digital twin is aiming at the digital physical dimension. The digital urban community is focused on all three realities connected to each other and really stimulating each other. So then the social aspects are also brought in. Track 2 is all about the innovative applications. So once we have our open urban platform with 3D digital twin ready, we can connect to all kinds of applications. And in the meanwhile, we already started with developing numerous applications. So all the things that you see on screen here are applications that we're already working on. And I will go through a couple of them. So the first is what we call the time and place independent citizens participation. In Holland, we have a problem with when we have spatial planning issues in the city. We want to build some new houses or rearrange some kind of park or whatever. Sorry. Then we have also participation procedures in which we try to bring citizens together and get their opinion on our plans. But those physical participation moments are really badly visited. So because it's always on a fixed moment, on a fixed place, and then as a citizen you really need to be able to go there at that moment. But also the used language is very difficult. There are a lot of thick paper documents that you don't understand, etc., etc. So it's really difficult for people to feel connected to this kind of developments. And we now really try to make that different. How can we use all kind of new digital tools that are available, and new kinds of principles like gamification principles? How can we use them to develop a tool that's aimed at time and place independent citizens participation? And this, what you're looking at is an infographic of that tool that shows us how now we created the first prototype of this tool, in which we are able to have a discussion with citizens around the redecoration of a little square in Rotterdam. And the inhabitants are invited to join in this rearranging that square, and they can put things there that are possible on that square. So they can put a tree somewhere, and then the system will give a message back if that's possible or not, because there are pipes and cables in the underground. So the system could say, here it is not possible, but when you put your tree 5 meters to the left, it is possible. So that's one aspect in which you give some kind of insight in what are the possibilities, but also the restrictions. And another part is about the available budget. So you can imagine that people are putting benches all over the place, and that the system at some point says, now, very nice that you put your 8th bench over there, but now your budget is gone, so you cannot put anything else there. So that are two types of gamification principles that we are using in the development of this tool. And of course, the tool will be really shaped in a 3D surroundings that will be very recognizable for the people who live there in that particular area. The second prototype that we are developing, the second tool, is what we call Safe Rotterdam, and that's all about physical safety. And as we see in Rotterdam, that our fire department, when there's some kind of fire somewhere in the city, then they have to drive from the fire department to the place of the incident, and maybe most of the time they have 5, 6, 7 minutes to get there. And in that 5, 6, 7 minutes, they need to make what they call an attacking plan, a plan how to deal with a particular incident. And for that attacking plan, they have a tablet in their car, and on the tablet they have of every store of every building in Rotterdam, they have a 2D PDF. But as you see, we have a lot of high-rise buildings in Rotterdam, and here for this particular building, it's 28 floors high. Then the fire department has 28 two-dimensional PDF files of that building. So that's very complicated to have an integral image of that building based on 28 different files. So can 3D really help in this? So we've try to connect several 3D buildings, 3D models. One is that 3D city model, as I've shown you already, and we try to connect that to 3D indoor data. And here you see an application that is able to combine those different models in one surroundings, and which the fire department can use to really understand how a 3D building looks like, and also have connection to the underground, which pipes and cables are connected to the building, etc. So this could really help fire people to understand quicker a particular building that they are facing. Here you see a third application. This is what we call a BIM model, a building information management model, of a new development in Rotterdam. This high-rise building is currently being built, will be 215 meters high. What we now developed is an app that allows people to put that BIM of that new development on every particular spot that you want to. So here you see it put on a table, and then you can look at it, you can zoom on it, you can walk around it. So you can really see the development from all kinds of angles. So that's the first step that we are undertaking, have the token already. The second step will be that we put markers on the ground, really on the site where the building is being built. There will be put markers on the pavement, and when you scan that marker with your mobile phone, and then you point your phone at the building site, then you get the high-rise building on real scale. So then you really can see how high 215 meters is. So that gives you really an impression of what we are doing there. And at the same time, of course, it's also very interesting. I just told you about the application for the fire department. And in the future, you can imagine how nice it would be if those firemen on the back seat of their fire truck could have some kind of hologram of the building that they're facing, that they're going to put the fire out. So that would really you could really see the crossover of the different techniques. A third application that we're building is about the acceleration of the building permit process, and how 3D can really help, and smart algorithms also in that. Here you see the existing buildings in Rotterdam at Boompjes. That's the address, but that's not important. And over that buildings are boxes drawn of some kind of brownish color and red color. And those boxes visualize the allowed building height on that particular spot. And when we put this picture, we showed this picture to our city council, they were completely flabbergasted. They really had the idea of, oh, did we make this possible? Yes, you made that possible, because in Holland, the city council in the end gives this approval to every zoning plan in the city, but they really don't understand what's written down in that zoning plan, because those zoning plans are very complex, thick things of more than 200 pages, full of very difficult language, accompanied with a 2D map that is with all kind of colors and lines drawn over it, etc. So very, very complex to understand. And those city council members, they don't understand what's written down. So they have a discussion about 2 hours, and after those 2 hours, they say to the expert that had made the plan, now we really believe you that you've done a good job, so okay, we trust you and we go ahead with it. So they say yes to a plan that they don't really understand. And this picture shows that, because the reaction, okay, did we make this possible, gives me the insight that they don't understand what the consequences are of the plans that they say yes to. So is it possible use new kind of techniques to really open up the process and make it more transparent, more understandable, and also based on that can we speed up the building permit process. As last thing, I would really take you along in what we call the knowledge tracks, based on the community of knowledge, as I said in the beginning. Because in the development of our platform, because we're not building a platform for the city, for the municipality itself, but we're building a platform for the city as a whole. And that means that also the question is risen about what is the role of the government in that. When it's a platform for the city, should we as a government develop it? Should we maintain it? Or what is our role in it? So that's really a governance question that we're researching. And we researched that together with Erasmus University in Holland. And they already have done some very interesting research the last couple of years. And Marcel van Oosthout, he is the one, the most important person in that research. Recently also gave a presentation to some members of the European Commission also about this topic. Very interesting research. And we participate in that research, and we also use that research partly to give an answer to that governance question that we're facing. In that governance discussion, we see that and that's also what we found out in our market consultation, that it very depends on what kind of company that you're dealing with, in what extent they also understand the new forms of governance that we are seeking for. There are also a lot of companies, I call them the companies from the old economy, that just want to sell us a license for a platform. But there are also companies that really want to go along on our trip together, and really in some kind of mutual trust develop the platform in the directions that we think that we need to go. And of course, the latter is the one that we are aiming at. We're really seeking partners to go on this very interesting travel together with us, instead of equipping us with some kind of platform and then send us just on our way. And another interesting thing that the study of the really shows is the importance of trust. So there needs to be trust amongst all participants in the ecosystem. So that means the data sources, the source owners, but also the users, the app developers, everybody who's is participating in that ecosystem needs to feel the trust in the same ecosystem. And further, you also see that there needs to be trust in the platform within that ecosystem. So it's really important to work on that trust and to find out what is needed to creating that trust. Because trust is also something that comes very slowly, but it will leave you very quickly. So most of the times you only have 1 or 2 shots to create a platform like this, and when you lose trust, then it becomes very difficult to make success out of the platform. And further, I can recommend everybody to read this report. And that's what I really would like to tell you. So this is it. Questions? There are.
Thank you, Roland. So I've been looking at the Slido platform, and there are indeed a couple of questions. Let me have a look. Right. So, oh yeah. So, in what way does the urban platform, as you just presented it, Roland, represent revenue streams for the city of Rotterdam? Or do you regard it as a public service to the citizens without any revenue to the city itself?
No, we think that the platform in the end should be able to keep up its own needs. So we as a government shouldn't be putting money every year after year in the platform to keep it alive. So it should be have a positive business case. There we see some problems. So we, the market consultation also learned us that for most of the companies, they expect a return on investment for this platform for to have a positive business case of 7 up until 10 years. And for companies, the return on investment always goes up until 3, maximum of 5, but most of the time not more than 3 years. So that's a very difficult period for them. So we see as a government that we need to invest for the first years to bring it alive, but after a couple of years it should have a positive business case on its own.
Thank you for that. So, and there's also a completely different question that was probably related to the 3D models you were showing. The question is, how do you keep your 3D models in sync with reality? And then the question goes, I guess this needs quite some cooperation between city departments to get all kinds of updated data together.
Yes, of course, keeping it updated is of course very important. At this moment, we once in the 2 or 3 years we have planes flown over the city, combined with new height data, etc. We can just extract the model, and in between we try to connect to new kind of developments to put them into the model, and that kind of things, mostly based on given permits. But at this moment we are most of the time 3, sometimes up until 6 months behind reality. So there is at this moment still a lack in really keeping up. Towards the future, we also want to find out in what kind of ways we can, of course, for example, use a crowdsourcing techniques or things like that, involve citizens, use our cars that drive through to control if you're paid your parking ticket, that also make images of the surroundings. If we can use those kind of things, or so we are towards the future searching for smarter and cheaper ways to keep our module actual. But at this moment we have a model that's 3 up until 6 months actual. So we have some kind of lag there.
Okay, thank you for that. It's probably, I'm just getting a question probably related to this. So what is the current investment in protection of the data in the platform?
Sorry, the current?
So what is the investment in the protection of the data? How do you manage the data protection? How do you see this kind of issue?
Now at this moment, of course, we're still in the development phase. So in the direction of going operational, data security and data protection will be a very important issue. At this moment, we not really, of course, the data within the sources are secure, but we're not really looking at those aspects because we're mostly not dealing with privacy sensitive issues at this moment. And at the same, we are still in the testing phase. But it's one of the what we call one of our memes towards the development of the operational platform to take care of security and privacy.
I remember seeing in one of your slides on the top you had GDPR, I think somewhere on the right hand side of your slide. So yeah. I did that one. Yes. So thanks for your answer there. And there's another question saying, so how can a city learn more to replicate the results from yourself, from Rotterdam? So how can we learn more? Clearly, we have this presentation, we have your contact details.
Yes, and of course we have that study done by the Erasmus University. There's also a very interesting deliverable within the Ruggedize project, in which all the lessons learned are written down of all the things done there. And of course, people can contact me. We have also some documents and information available for that. But in the end, when you really want to start this, then and you really would like to help you with that, then it comes down, I think, to that we should have some kind of meeting or things like that. So, but we are open for that.
Right. Okay. So that's probably a question for myself. So I was interested in your competitive dialogue process. Would you think that's a normal process? Because I'm familiar with it in the Netherlands, because I'm Dutch myself. But have you seen other types of examples in your projects in other jurisdictions?
No, not yet. And at this time, we're still searching if we're going for the competitive dialogue or the innovative partnership. We don't know yet. It's also a bit depending on how innovative the things that we want are. So that's also a bit what we believe ourselves. So no, not yet.
Okay, so it might be interesting also for the viewers to know that we have actually there's a webinar tomorrow on the relation between cities and procurement as well. So that might be interesting also for yourself, Roland, and to see what others might have in offer. I'm getting a remark here. It's a great presentation, very interesting, especially very practical, very good Rotterdam, it says. So compliments from the audience on what you have been presenting. So that's great to hear. Thanks, Roland. So I don't see any further questions in the question boxes here. I want to thank Roland for his contribution. Really a deep dive with indeed some very practical examples and very visual examples as well. So if the audience wants to get in touch, you can get in touch via our webpage. You can go to our own matchmaking team, go meet us in the meeting area, and then we can help you to connect to Roland's case study in a bit more detail. I want to leave you with that. To get in touch with us at the meeting area, and we will reconvene at 2 o'clock Central European time, where we have another example from a city, in this case from Porto in Portugal. So thanks again. For those of you who are going to have lunch, enjoy your lunch, and hope to see you very soon using the same platform. So thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.